Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this afternoon's ACT webinar, all about the ACT official student score report. And we're also going to go over the college report, the report that is sent to colleges when students request an official report be sent directly from ACT to the colleges. I'm Dr. Mary Cook. I'm the ACT coordinator for Metro Nashville Public Schools. And this is actually the last of a series of ACT webinars we did. The other events happened in January and February, leading up to the March 1st ACT test that the juniors took that was funded by the state of Tennessee. And you can see those recordings on the MNPS YouTube channel. And they're also linked off from the same webpage where you got to the registration link for this webinar. We have with us Nivea Atwood, who works with ACT. She's actually going to be doing the presentation today. And as we're going through, if you have questions, please feel free to come off from mute or enter your questions into the chat, whichever you prefer. But this is all about you and helping you understand the information that you're receiving on your student score report. So we want to make sure that everything is clear and that you understand how to use that information to help you improve if you're going to take the ACT again, or to understand the information that you're receiving and what it tells you. A lot of people just look at the composite score, the individual subject scores, and there's a lot of information on those reports, and we want to make sure that you get that information. So with that, I'm going to turn the show over to Nivea, and she's going to share her screen, and I'm just going to hang out in the background because she knows everything about these score reports. She is our expert in the group today. So thank you again for coming.
All right, thank you, Mary. All right, so let me ask that question. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. As Mary said, my name is Nivea Atwood. I am the ACT Senior Account Executive for the state of Tennessee. Not only am I going to talk to you about the ACT score report and the college report from the perspective of ACT, but I am also a mom. As you see in the lower right picture, I'm the proud mom of a son and my bonus daughter. So my son is a college freshman. So as a parent, I went through this myself the past few years and helping him and guiding him. And then my bonus daughter's in 4th grade. So when the time is ready, I will be helping her as well. In the picture at the top, I am also a Tennessee Promise mentor. So that means every spring I get a new group of seniors and I help them navigate the college going process into one of Tennessee's community colleges or TCAT. So it's a picture of me and my mentees. This was pre-pandemic with my kids. So I'll be coming at it from all of these perspectives. So let's just start with a question to see what you know. What kind of test is the ACT test anyway? Is it an IQ test, a test of your smarts? Is it an aptitude test, a test of your natural ability? Or is it an achievement test? What you learn in school every day prepares you for the test. If you said C, achievement test, then you are correct. So again, this means that there are things that you can do to improve. It's not like an IQ test where some people believe they only have a certain amount of smarts and that's it. Or it's in my natural abilities, so there's nothing I can do to improve. So again, it is an achievement test. There are things you can do to improve. Now, our agenda, we are first going to discuss how ACT scores are used. What is the definition of being college ready anyway? And how do I know if I'm college ready? What are those benchmarks? What are those scores? And then we're going to take a look at the ACT student score report. We're going to take a look at the paper report, take a look at the sections, and then what does that look like in my ACT? What does it look like in that online portal? And then lastly, what do colleges see? What sort of information do they get about me? So we're going to take a look at an ACT college report. We'll look at one for a single test event and also a super score. So let's talk about how ACT scores are used. First of all, let's talk about how the composite itself is used. As many of you know, one way it can be used is for college admission. We know, though, with test optional, that is something you would have to research because not all colleges use it for admission. For dual enrollment, so again, depending on if you take a dual enrollment class, who your school partners with, and what those policies are. College honors programs. So for example, if a college does use ACT for admission, they may have one score for everyone to get in, but a different higher score for those who want to participate in their honors programs. And then lastly, scholarships. We are all familiar with our state's scholarship, the HOPE scholarship, the 21 ACT score, and college scholarships. I'm going to use MTSU as an example because that's one of the colleges that my son had researched. They have their freshman guaranteed scholarship where if you apply by December 1st, and they have 3 levels to that scholarship. For example, True Blue, if you have at least a 23 ACT score and a 3.5 GPA, you will get $2,000 a year, renewable for 4 years. If you increase your ACT score just 2 points to a 25, you will get not $2,000 a year, but $4,500 a year. So that's a pretty big jump for 2 points. So again, a few things for you to research. Now, how are the individual subject scores used? For college course placement, this is how they determine, are you ready for these typical first-year college courses such as English composition? We're going to look at your English score and determine if you are ready. Then, of course, dual enrollment. You're wanting to take dual enrollment English, dual enrollment math, etc. Admission to a competitive major, for example, engineering. There might be one math score to take introductory statistics, for example, but a different higher score, a different higher math score if you're wanting to get into their engineering program, as an example. College credit or exemption based on your score. I do have a Tennessee Promise mentee going to Motlow, and she did not have to take English comp because she made like, I don't know, like a 31 in her English score. So as a result, boom, whole year of English she did not have to take, saved her time, and she went straight into her second year of English. And for athletes, NCAA eligibility. So what does it mean to be college ready anyway? We keep hearing that term, college readiness. What does that mean? Well, first of all, the definition of college has expanded. It's not the traditional 4-year college anymore. College also includes the 2-year community colleges, trade school, our TCATs, our technical schools. All of that is considered college. So back to the college ready definition, what does that mean? That means that you have the knowledge and the skills to not only enroll in, but also be successful in those typical first-year credit-bearing college courses without remediation. So how do I know if I'm college ready? What are those benchmarks? What are those scores? So I know I need to meet or exceed that. So no remedial courses for me in college. Well, let's take a look at this chart. The typical first-year credit-bearing college course is English composition. So that benchmark is an 18 on the English. If you make at least an 18 or higher in English, then you are ready for English comp. College algebra paired with math section of the test, that benchmark is a 22. Now, if you'll notice, it's not English that's paired with reading, it's the social sciences. What does that mean? Those are your history courses, psychology, sociology, etc. And that benchmark is a 22. Biology paired with science, and that's a 23. ELA, there's an ELA score, and that is English comp and the social sciences. So the ELA score is a 20. Now, I will tell you the only time you will ever have an ELA score is if you also take the writing on the ACT test. If you do not take the writing test, then you will not have an ELA score. And that is because your ELA score is your English, reading, and writing altogether. And then lastly is STEM. That score is a 26. So if you're like, wait a minute, now if math benchmark is a 22, science is a 23, how is it that the STEM score is a 26, which is higher than the other two? Well, take a look at what it's paired with. It's paired with those high level or higher level math and science classes, your calculus, chemistry, biology, physics, and engineering. So how do I know if I'm ready for those STEM courses, if you will, is what that's looking at. Now, I will tell you again, this is something for you to research because every college may have a different benchmark. So for example, my Tennessee Promise kids who go to a community college, the benchmark for all Tennessee community colleges is still a 18 for English. However, it's a 19 for math and reading, and there's no benchmark for science. So when I meet with my seniors, again, one of the things I talk about is, hey, let's look at your scores because I don't want you to have to take remedial courses in college. They're called learning support. And guess what? You don't get college credit for those courses. So you're doing extra. And I don't want that for you. So let's take a look at your paper ACT student score report. We're going to zoom in on some of those sections. Now, I'll tell you, when you bubbled in your answer document, one of the things that you bubbled in was your address. And every student will be snail mailed a paper student score report, and that'll come to you. And those paper reports, you start getting those anywhere up to 8 weeks after your test date. So let's zoom in on this section and see what this means, because otherwise you can look at it and it looks pretty busy. So let's take a look at your scores here. So what we did was we counted your correct answers on each subject test. Now, we didn't take off points for wrong answers, which is why you should never leave anything blank. If you don't know the answer, pick a letter of the day. So we count the ones you get correct, 0 penalty points for wrong answers. Then what we do is we convert your number of correct answers into a score that ranges from 1 to 36. Now, we call these subject test scores. So take a look at math. We count all the correct math ones, and then we convert it to a score. So we'll see the 19. Now, let's take a look at the composite score of 21 here. So then your composite score is the average of your 4 multiple choice subject test scores. Now, ACT does round up to the nearest whole number. If you left any one of these 4 tests blank, that score is reported as 2 dashes, and then there's no composite score is computed at all. Now, I wanted to visually show you this, that your composite are those 4 numbers. If you'll notice, what test is not included in your composite score? If you said writing, you are correct. Your writing score, if you took the writing test, is not a part of your composite score at all. It's a totally separate score. So let's go ahead and let's look at writing while we're there. And the writing test is graded by 2 raters. So in other words, by 2 people who rate your essay. And they do so on a scale of 1 to 6 in each of the 4 writing domains. Each of these domains represents essential skills and abilities that are necessary to meet the writing demands of college and career. Now, your domain scores, which range from 2 to 12, are a sum of those 2 raters' scores. Your writing score is the average of your 4 domain scores rounded to the nearest whole number. Now, as we know, on our 2 in-school ACT tests, writing is not a part of that. All right, so let's take a look again at what some other information that we see on here. So if we'll notice the color coding, we notice math and science has a green line under it, and then it says STEM, which has a green box around it. So again, just showing the visual that your STEM score is an average of your math and science score. Then we continue looking. Now we see a different color coding. We notice that English reading and writing are underlined in blue, and ELA has a blue box. Now you'll notice that ELA has a score. Again, visually showing you that your ELA score takes into account your English reading and writing. Now remember what I said before. If you don't take the writing, then you will not have an ELA score. So there's nothing to be concerned about there. Now, the next thing I'll draw your attention to, if you would, there we go, we circle that, where it says your score. Now your score is going to be the heavy green or the heavy blue line in these columns. Then you'll notice it shows a shading. This is your score range. So let's take a look at the math column. And if we'll notice, we see a purple line and a purple bubble with a 22 in it. And we're like, well, what is that? Well, again, if we look at the legend to the right, it says that's that ACT College Readiness benchmark that we just discussed. Then you'll notice there's the heavy green line. That's your actual score. So for this student, that is the 19. Then there's the shading of the green. Now let's look to the left. Let's look in the composite column. Again, if you'll notice, the composite score is that heavy navy line. And again, it also has a score range. So you're like, okay, well, Olivia, what's the deal with the score range? What is that about? Test scores are estimates of your educational development. If you'll notice to the right in the legend, it says your score range, and it kind of shows you some information there. Everything you need is on here. So that is an estimate of your educational development. So think of your achievement on these tests as being within a range that extends about 1 point for the composite score on the writing test. And that's above and below your score. All right, so let's take a look at the composite column. We look at that heavy navy line, that's the score of a 21, and we look, yeah, but it's about a 1 score above and 1 score below that 21. So that's my range. If you look in the writing column, you're going to see the same thing, 1 point above and 1 point below. Again, showing that range, because we're trying to take into account the standard error of measurement as well. But if you'll notice for all other scores, including STEM and ELA, that range looks to be a little bit wider. And you're right, it is. So this time, instead of 1 point above and below, it's actually 2 points above and below. So again, showing you that range. Now back to that question, am I college ready? So again, we're zooming in on those benchmarks that we just saw, and you can see how close you are, especially with your range, to the benchmarks, whether you're above or below or really close. Now, these benchmarks have a predictive nature to it. So what it's saying is that if you score at or below that benchmark, that you have at least a 50% chance of getting a B or higher in those typical first-year credit-bearing courses, or about a 75% chance of getting a C or higher in those classes. But as we all know, predictions are not destiny. Next part of your score report is, where do I rank? Where am I on this? So for this, the US and the state rank is going to show you both of those. The purple lines in these areas indicate, oh, excuse me, that's not purple. I'll get that's navy. Thank you. All right. So the ranking section tells you the approximate percentages of high school students across the country and in Tennessee who took the ACT and received the same or lower scores. So for example, and I called it purple, but it's not, it's navy. So let's look in the US rank side, and let's look at the very first one, composite. It says 56%, and then there's a navy line. So what that is telling you is that the 56% composite ranking means that 56% of students receive the same composite score or lower than your composite score. So that's what that means. So where can I improve? All right, I saw my scores, but how do I translate that into real feedback that gives me direction on prepping for the next test? So this graphic is going to show you that and show you that visualization. So we're going to take a deeper look at this. So if you notice this math, and there's your score 19. Then it says preparing for higher math, 22 of 35. Preparing for higher math is what's called a reporting category. And in this reporting category, preparing for higher math, 35 of the 60 math questions come from this one reporting category. That's almost 50, was that a little over 50% of the test comes from that one reporting category. This student got 22 out of 35 questions correct. Then it's going to turn that raw score into a percentage, 63%. Then gives you this visualization with this bar. If you notice, the green is at 63%. Above it is a purple bracket, and this says here's the ACT readiness range. So in order to be considered ready for this reporting category, you need to be within this range. And if you are, you're going to get a purple check mark. You're good. So even though you might like 63% sounds like failing, not at all. This means, yes, that you are within that range. Now, if you're like, I have no idea what kind of math prepares me for higher math, well, then if you'll notice, it's going to break it down into subcategories: number and quantity, algebra, functions, geometry, statistics, and probability. Now, of those 35 preparing for higher math questions, how many are number and quantity questions? 5. The student got all 5 out of 5 correct, 100%. Boom, there's the check mark. You're good. Algebra got 5 of 8 correct, 63%. If you notice, the green bar, however, is not within that purple readiness range. So no check mark. All right. That right there, I'm going to make a note to myself. I'm going to refresh on some algebra. Functions, geometry, and the statistics and probability. You see how many out of those 35 questions are those types. And again, gives you feedback on some direction on where to start in your preparation. The second reporting category is integrating essential skills. If you notice, there are 25 questions in this reporting category. This student got 11 of 25, or 44%. Not quite within, close, but not quite within that. And then the third and last reporting category is modeling. Now, if you're like, okay, I don't know what integrating essential skills means. I don't know, is there like a description of these reporting categories somewhere so I know what that means? Yes. I am going to give Dr. Cook a copy of this PDF, of this presentation, so that you can have access to these links. You can also just simply Google ACT test description or ACT English test description. Make sure you click on the act.org link, and then we will have that for you. So I'm going to show you an example. I went ahead and I screenshotted the integrating essential skills. If you'll notice in parentheses, it tells you it's 40 to 43% of the test. So this is a test blueprint, if you will. And so this reporting category will always be 40 to 43% of the test. Now, as we just saw, there about 25 of the 60 questions came from that one reporting category. So if you'll notice online, and again, you can find these in prep books as well, gives you a short description of what this reporting category is. Now, if you would, let's not read the whole thing. Let's just eyeball the first line. Something very interesting. So what we've learned is that in this reporting category, that this is math that is learned by the 8th grade. So again, in your prep work, you're like, hey, it's been a minute since I've had this kind of math, and we're using these math skills that we learned by the 8th grade. We're just using them maybe in a slightly different way on the ACT test. All right, so maybe I want to start there if I'm wanting to improve my math score as an example. So this is what the entire detailed results section looks like. We had zoomed in on just the math to kind of look at all those different components, but let's eyeball this entire section. So if you'll notice with science, it has 3 reporting categories, and you can look and see just by the sheer number of questions, which reporting category has the most weight, has the most questions. And what I will tell you is that it will always be that way. So for example, in science, we notice its interpretation of data has the most weight. Under English, there are 3 reporting categories. So you all take a look at those raw scores and see if you can identify which one has the most weight, has the most questions. If you said conventions of standard English, you are correct. 40 of the 75 math questions come from that one reporting category. So again, you're like, oh, what type of questions are those? What does that mean by conventions exactly? Take a look at reading. How many reporting categories do you see there? Again, 3. And then which one has the most weight, has the most questions? And that's key ideas and details. And again, it will always be that way. It's not going to rotate amongst the reporting categories which one's the most weight. It will always be those the same exact ones every time. And again, I just showed you that online. It had those percentages in parentheses. That was that blueprint. Then if you'll notice in the reading section underneath the last reporting category, which is integration of knowledge and ideas, there's an indicator there that says understanding complex text. Let me bring that up. There we are, so we can see it a little bit better. So what this indicator means, it just lets you know if you are understanding the central meaning of a complex text at a level that is needed to succeed in those college courses which have a higher reading demand. So that's all that means. The next part, we all know that before you took the test, you completed some non-test questions. It asked you the interest inventory questions, asked you questions about your interests, your values, and your abilities. And so that information is also reported out onto your school report. So if you notice on the left, we have what looks like a compass, working with data, things, ideas, and people. So working with people, these are people that you help, serve, inform, care for, or sell things to. Working with data, you like working with facts, numbers, files, accounts, business procedures. Working with things, machines, tools, living things, and materials such as food, wood, or metal. Working with ideas, insights, theories, new ways of saying or doing something like words, equations, or music. And so based on your answers, the arrow is going to kind of show you where you are. So if you notice with this person, it says they enjoy working with people and data. And then underneath, it's going to list out some sample occupations. Another predictive indicator on your ACT score report is the progress toward the ACT National Career Readiness Certificate. As it says here, all it does, it gives you an estimate of what your scores are that students who have your ACT composite score are likely to obtain. So if you notice in the blue or navy there, it says 21, and it says you are making progress toward a gold level certificate on the ACT NCRC. Now, we just went over all of the components of the paper score report. And we also talked about how you can use the detailed results, those reporting categories, to inform your preparation for the next test. You can identify your strengths, which ones have the purple check marks, and you also identified your areas of improvement. And then to give you direction on areas of improvement, we kind of look at the reporting categories. Start with the one that has the most questions in it, or where you have room to grow. So how does that information look online, though? How does that look in your My ACT account? So before you took the, yes.
We have a question in the chat.
Sure.
The question is, my student's report does not have the pie chart with the arrow. Why would that be?
Okay, great question. So that could possibly be if the student did not answer the non-test questions before they took the test. Students complete the non-test portion online. In the past, I remember when I took it a bajillion years ago, we completed the non-test portion and we bubbled it in our answer document. Well, that has changed. Students create their My ACT account and they answer those questions before test day in their My ACT account online. So one possible reason for that is that the student did not do that portion. Yeah, thank you for that, Mary. Any other questions before I show them what it looks like in My ACT?
Nope, that's the only one so far.
All right. All right, so in their My ACT account, which the students hopefully created before the test and completed non-test information, this is another place where they will get their scores. They actually will get their scores in their My ACT account before the snail mail. And of course, that makes sense. Students would get an email saying, hey, your scores are ready in your My ACT account. Just log in and take a look. So when they log in the upper left, they're going to see tests and prep. There is a free online test in there. Scores or plans. So of course, they're going to click scores and you're going to see this. So this is an example of a student who has taken the ACT test 2 times. This student took it for the very first time, April of 2019. The student took it again, September 2020. And as a result, since you have at least 2 ACT tests, the student also has a super score. So let's see what those paper elements look like online. So I clicked on September 2020 just as an example, and they're going to see their scores: composite, math, science, English, and reading. And then if they're like, I don't know what a composite score is, or Let's say they did take the writing or, writing score information. Now, when students complete the non-test information, not only will they fill out the interest inventory, and we just discussed that, that is also their opportunity to send their score report to 4 colleges for free. If they don't send it to any colleges at that time, yes, they can send scores later. However, it will cost $16 per score send. So if you'll notice here, like, yeah, I want to send the score. So they're going to click the send this score button and choose who they want to send it to, and then check out at the end. Then if you'll notice underneath, there are more options. My score details, how do I compare, am I ready for college, and my interests. So now what we're going to do is take those paper elements and put them under one of these 4 categories. Now I know you can't see this, but this was kind of long. So I clicked my score details. So this is kind of long, so I had to really like scrunch it so you could see the whole thing in totality here. But you're like, oh, okay. These are the reporting categories that we just saw. They can still see that on their online version as well. Absolutely. If you'll notice, it's in green, but that ACT readiness range is still there. Now, what's not there is a purple check mark at the end. But the thing is, if their blue bar is within that green bracket that says ACT readiness range, then yeah, they're good. Then if you also notice underneath English and reading, it does say progress toward the ACT National Career Readiness Certificate. So there's that indicator there. That's that prediction of what certificate level they would be based on their composite score. And then if you look at the reading square there, you notice there are the 3 reporting categories like we just saw, because we can see the percentages, and that understanding complex text indicator is still there as well. So now if you click the How Do I Compare button, that is where you'll find those US and state ranks. And you just click in between the 2. So again, it explains to the student, your rank shows the approximate percentage of recent high school grads in the US who received scores that are the same or lower than yours. So those ranks are still there. So let's click the next button. Am I ready for college? Here are those college readiness benchmarks, again showing your score, the bar, and then here's the benchmark. So again, the benchmark for math is a 22. Again, just visually showing where you are on that. And then my interest, back to that compass, which doesn't look quite like such a compass anymore, but here it is. If you notice, this student looks like they're right smack dab in between working with people and working with ideas. And then if you'll notice underneath, it says, hey, here are some example occupations for this kind of work. For example, political scientist, recreational therapist, etc. All right, if you have your phones handy, if you would open up your calculator app. I don't want to assume that everyone knows what SuperScore means. So I'll have a quick explanation and then a quick activity. So if you already know what a SuperScore is, that's awesome. All right, so of all the students, first of all, there is no cap on taking the ACT test. The students can take it as many times as they want to. So whatever their ACT goal is, whether it's a scholarship or getting into a school or whatever their goal is, they can take it as many times until they meet their goal. So with every student having multiple sets of data, then how do colleges decide which score to use? Well, it depends on the college's policy. Some colleges will take the highest score. So if a student takes it 5 times, and let's say their second time out of 5 happens to be the highest, they're going to take that one. Some colleges will SuperScore. And what that means is if a student takes it 5 times, that means they now have 5 sets of English scores. And they're going to look at those 5 sets of English scores, and they're going to cherry pick their best, their highest English score, whichever attempt that may be. They're going to take it out of that group of 5. They're going to set it to the side. Now I'm going to take a look at your 5 math scores. Which one's your highest? Which one's your best? I'm going to take it, cherry pick it as well, pull it out from the group, set it beside that awesome English score over there. I'm going to do it 2 more times. And then I'm going to take a look at those 4 scores that I just cherry picked, your best of your best. And I'm going to get an average of those 4 scores. And I'm going to get me a brand new spanking composite score. Of course, rounding up if it's a 0.5 or higher. That's a super score. Schools such as Vanderbilt, UTK, Christian Brothers University, they super score. All right, activity time. Here is some sample data from a student who took a test in April, June, and September. Here are their scores in English, math, reading, and science. The composite scores already computed for you there at the end. So if you were a college who took a student's highest score, then which score would you take for this child? If you said 22, you are correct. Now what I like for you to do is I want you to go cherry picking, and I would like for you to compute the student's brand new composite. What would this student's super score be? I'll give you a minute. Remember, if you get a 0.5 or higher, to round up to the nearest whole number.
We have an answer in the chat of 23.
Oh, well, let's see. Here we go. Let's all go to the English score and let's go cherry picking. You should have cherry picked the 22. That's the highest. Math, 23. Reading, 23. Science, 22. You are correct. Awesome.
There was a question, Nivea,
Yeah.
kind of related to this. Is
Sure.
it possible to just take one section over again?
No, not at this time. That is what we called section retesting, and that may be on the roadmap down in the future. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit when we were ready to roll that out, and so we've had to roll that back, and we're waiting for right now. But hopefully down the line, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I like the way you think, whoever asked that question. All right, so now we're going to switch gears to the ACT College Report, and we're going to look at it for a single test event, and then we're going to see what it looks like for a super score. So here it is for a single test event. If you'll notice at the top, the super score section, of course, is grayed out, and then it says single test event. Now, let's read the sentence underneath that, because you have an option here. It says the single test event test summary below is shown when a student elects to send an institution an individual ACT test. I want to send you this once, just like my ACT example, right? Remember that September 2020 I showed you and it said send this score? Boom, I'm going to send you this one score. Now, this is the only option available for students who have only taken it one time. So again, you have that option if you're going to send them the one. So let's take a look. There's the composite. There's that same color coding with the green and the blue. If you notice, the student does not have a writing score because they did not take the writing. And take a look. No ELA score, right? So unable to do that. Now, again, they've got some shading. Let's look underneath. Let's look in the composite column. If you notice, there's a navy circle. That's the actual score, 21. Then you notice there's that shading. There's that score range again, right? So showing that as well. And now let's take a look at math. There's the dark circle, that's the 19 in math. And again, there's the shading because that's the student's score range. But you notice we have a new thing. It's pink, and it says 22. That's the college readiness benchmark. So again, showing that for the college folks. And if you notice, the writing column is blank because there's no score. And in the ELA column, again, no score, just the benchmark. So again, showing them that same visual. Then notice on the right, it will show them the US rank. So what you see that's not there is the state rank, just the US rank for your test. Then underneath, they do show them the reporting categories and what it looks like, what that breakdown is. from that test event. Then at the very bottom, underneath reading, it will be the writing scores if the student had taken writing. Now let's take a look at the backside. Now let's look on the column on the right in white. So they also get that progress toward the ACT National Career Readiness Certificate indicator as well. But let's look at what's in the gray box. And it says college choice, right? This is all the college choices you've chosen. College selection items ranking, high school information, subjects studied, extracurricular activities, background information, financial aid information, admissions, enrollment, etc. And you're looking at that like, how do they know some of this information? That comes from your non-test information. This is how they know that. So again, thinking in terms of how is this information used by colleges? Well, this information, it can be a valuable tool, not only in admissions, but also in orientation, in course sectioning and student placement, allocation of financial aid, academic advising, student retention and tracking, and other student personnel services. So that's how else this information is used. Now, ACT does send colleges, universities an electronic record for you that contains information of interest to virtually all college offices and departments. Now, because few offices or departments need the entire student record, it is common practice for the college's designated score recipient to pull certain data elements from the record for use by other college officials. So there's not one person who's going to need all of this, right? So which departments need which part of this information so they can help best serve you is what it amounts to at the end of the day.
Nivea, there's a question in the chat. Actually, This is from a while ago, and I said I was going to hold it.
Sure.
So the question is, once a student sent a score to a school, how does that school get an updated score? Do you have to choose the same school each time, or can you choose 4 new schools and still have that previous school get the update?
I would send it to that school as far as the update. Yeah, because we're only going to send it to the people you tell us to send it to.
So each time they test, so if they sent March's scores and then they retake October and October is better and they want their March schools to get that October score, they need to send a new score report then.
That is absolutely correct, especially if there's a school like MTSU who takes your highest score. And again, you know, it comes because remember, MTSU has scholarships based on your ACT score. And there's a $2,500 difference between those who score a 23 and those who score a 25.
Great. And it looks like there's some other people typing. So once those questions pop up, I'll let you know what they are.
All right, awesome. So let's see what it looks like if you have a super score. What does that exact report looks like? So now, of course, instead of being grayed out, we've got some color there at the tip top. So at the top, there's your super score information. Again, color coded. So if you would, let's look at math. You see the student has a 33 in math. And then look underneath the 33. Look what it says. It says date. And it's going to tell them exactly which test of yours this 33 comes from. Remember, these are the cherry pick scores. So I cherry picked this 33 from this child's April 2021 test. What type of test was it? It was a full battery test, which is the only option right now anyway. Now let's look at science. Well, we cherry picked that from which test? Also from that April 2021 test. All right, then there's the STEM score computed, which is an average of math and science. Now let's look at English. Where did they cherry pick that? From that same April 2021. Reading. Where do they cherry pick that from? Oh, from a different test. They got that from this student's February 2022 test. And then the student happened to take writing and they took the child's from their April 2021 test. And then there's the ELA score there. So notice when they cherry pick, we do inform them exactly which test this came from. Now, in addition to your super score, what else is included? Your highest full battery test. We don't put the most recent test there. we say, all right, of all your test attempts, whichever one is the highest full battery, we're going to include that. If you notice, after the words highest full battery to the right, it says date April 2021. So that makes sense to me why most of the cherry pick scores came from this test. So let's take a look and compare. So there's the 33 and 23. That's where that came from. The STEM score remains exactly the same when I compare, right? English, 19, because it came from this test. But you notice reading in April 2021, it was a 16. But however, when they retook the test in February, they'd increased that 16 to a 22, to a 22. Ooh, a lot of twos there. So that's where we see that. And then you notice writing came from there. So notice that the composite score went up a point from a 23 on the highest full battery to a 24 for that super score. Now, let's see what it looks like visually, because it's starting to get a little busier. So if you'll notice where it says composite, if you notice there's the Navy score, and then there's the score range that we're used to. Then if we look at math, the benchmark 22, of course, is there. Then if you'll notice, there's another score range, and that's in purple. And that's because one of them came from the highest full battery, and then the other one is the super score. So how do you know the difference? Well, the super score, if we notice up there, is in purple, and the highest full battery, we notice, is in navy. So that's why you see the difference in the two colors. So under the composite score, right, we have the navy 23 with the score range, but then we have the super score there in purple, all by its little lonesome dot there. So that's why it looks a little busier in here, because it's going to show both of those.
We have another question.
Yeah.
Do you get charged $16 for sending an updated score report to a college to which you had previously sent a score report? For example, I picked schools A, B, C, and D for test number 1. I picked schools E, F, G, and H for number 2, but then also want to send it to school B. Am I charged $16 for that second report to school B?
That is correct. Yeah, because when you take the states, anytime you take the ACT, even on the national test date, during that non-test time, that's the time for your four free sends. Anything beyond that will be $16. To the right, if you notice at the tip top, there's a US rank again and detailed super score results. So again, when you take a look, what they're showing you there as far as your reporting categories. Now, what does the back side look like? The exact same. There's the non-test information reported out there in the gray section. Look towards the right. There's the NCRC predictive indicator again. But here's what's new right here in the red box. Let's all kind of eyeball what that is. So what this is going to tell the college is like, hey, this is a summary of all section scores earned for each test event that is included in that ACT super score. So for example, for super score English, the date that was cherry picked came from April 2021. So what it's going to show there are all the scores on that score report. So E, English 19, M, Math 33, R, Reading 16, S, Science 23, W, Writing 6, C, Composite 23. So that's all it's doing, is just laying it all out there. Then if you'll notice, Reading is the only one that's different. That's February of 2022. Again, showing them the full shebang of all the scores from that score report in February of 2022. So that's the only thing that's different between this and the single test event, is this additional score information. All right, any questions?
And you all are welcome to come off from mute and ask your questions as well. So I'm happy to keep reading them, but you are welcome to come off from mute too. So in the chat, it takes so many points to improve when one let me start that one again. It takes so many points improvement in one category to improve the composite even by 1 point. What are some best strategies for improving composite?
Wow, good question. I know from my son's experience, he looked in, there were a couple of subjects he wasn't happy with, and so he focused on raising those scores. Like he scored it like in the 30s in English and reading. And then math, he had like a 26. So for him, he just focused on which subjects are important to me and what are going to meet my goals, and I'm going to raise my score up that way.
But yeah, when the composite is an average, that really
Yeah.
makes it challenging. So
Yeah.
sorry if I missed this, but any reason a student or student would or should not do the writing?
There are no pluses or minuses to that. All it is does the college require it? If they require it, then yes, take it. If they don't require it, don't take it.
And I don't know that if Nibia can say this or not, so I'm going to. There are very, very few colleges that require the writing portion of either the ACT or the SAT. So I would ask before signing up for it.
Yeah. And just a reminder that the 2 in-school ACTs do not include writing. So if you find a college that does require writing, then your student will need to register for a national test date.
What other questions? These are great questions. And like I said, this is being recorded, so other people will hear what your questions are. So you're covering some great territory. So if you have other questions kind of running through your mind, please feel free to ask. Okay, so I am going to attempt, I'm hoping that these links do not turn ugly. Sometimes they do when I put them into the chat, but these are the links that Nivea shared for, oh, they look nice, for descriptions of those, of the different tests. And this is straight off from the ACT website. I was looking this up while she was talking and doing her presentation, and I figured I could share those with you while you were sitting here so that you could click them and then share them on your, or save them on your browser. And if you are watching this, I will have these posted probably on the ACT page of the Metro website, so you can get to them quickly and easily. And also, if you didn't look through that ACT webpage, if you just went straight to the registration for the webinar, you might want to scroll down to the bottom because I've linked a lot of preparation resources. I focus primarily on the ACT-based resources, but Metro also has a contract with a company called Mastery Prep. And so this provides ACT prep resources at no charge to the students who are juniors and seniors. So every school in the district, every student in Metro operated schools, not the charter schools, but the Metro district schools, who is a junior or a senior has access to that. And there are people, there is an ACT lead at each school. So usually an assistant principal, so they can ask about using that for any type of preparation or remediation. And then in addition, like I said, on the ACT page, so mnps.org/ACT, scroll down to the bottom, there are additional links like the Tennessee Electronic Library System has an ACT prep section there. It has links to the ACT page. All the students who took the ACT have a My ACT account. There is a practice test there available to them for free as well. So there's a lot of different options for taking practice tests that they can do and kind of help them improve their score and help them kind of understand better what's going on with the test so that they're ready for the next time. There is a question that I saw, and I see a hand up as well. So where and when can we get the PowerPoint? So Nivea will give me the PDF, I believe, of the PowerPoint, correct, Nivea?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then I will email that out to everybody who signed up. For whatever reason, the actual attendance side doesn't record email addresses. So if you signed up, you're going to get the PDF. So I will email that out as an attachment probably tomorrow. And then you can get that. Other questions? Somebody had their hand up, so maybe that was the question. If not, is it just a single practice ACT that is available through the My ACT account?
So students can retake the test. So what it is, it's 4 subject tests. And a student can take a test timed or untimed. Like, for example, untimed because they just want to check their knowledge. Or they can do timed as well because, of course, you need pacing strategies. You're going to do 60 math questions in 60 minutes, for example. They go through it all, and then they can retake the test. So it's not a one and done. And there's also an item an item analysis in there as well, so kids can see which ones they got right, which ones they got wrong, and resources to help them with the ones they got wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to do a quick screen share. We have about 6 minutes left here. So this is the page where you went to register for the webinar. It's right there. And then all of these are, I mentioned at the start, these are the different webinars we did in January and February for the students. So if you open them up, this link will take you to the recording of the webinar, but then there's all kinds of tips for each one of the subject areas. There's a tab for each subject area. These are the links to the recorded webinars. And then, like I said, scroll down, and down here is the early start. So if you have elementary school students and you're thinking that far ahead, there are academic, not ACT. We don't want third graders taking the ACT. Absolutely not. But we do want them working on their academic skills. So there's resources within the schools that you could be talking to your teachers about, okay, how is my child doing in these different academic areas, just to make sure they're on track and that they're appropriate grade level. Not focusing on ACT, just making sure that they're in the right place for their grade level that's appropriate. And then there's information for middle school. Some middle school students start thinking, I was one of those. I started thinking that way. I was thinking college. It's just one of the things in my family about middle school. So there's some links there. And then early high school is 9th and 10th grade. Additional information, you see the sections are growing. And then late high school, this is where you'll find the link for the Mastery Prep, the information about the Mastery Prep resources, and then some of the other links. And all of these are free. I did not put anything in there that's going to cost you anything. That was intentional because different families are in different places financially. And so I didn't want to say, here's this great resource and then make it not reachable financially for some of our families. So everything that's listed here is free. So please, have at it and use it to your students' best ability. And on that Mastery Prep option, there is a YouTube. I did a recording on how to navigate this is a YouTube channel. This is a lot of clicking. I know, I'm sorry if I'm going to lose you. But there's an ACT and Act Now on, this is a Metro YouTube channel, but I have a playlist for all the YouTube videos. And there's one that is about the Mastery Prep platform. It's an overview of it right there, accessing and navigating the Mastery Prep platform. And matter of fact, I'm going to grab that link and put that in the chat as well. And that will kind of, if your student isn't using that already at school, there is a way that they can just use it at home on their own. And so that is an ugly link, but there you go. That goes straight to, there you go. And that will show you how to use that platform and navigate your way through it. So just some additional bonus information there on prep. We weren't planning on going through prep, but there you go. There's some links that you can use. Other questions while I was kind of clicking around? That was a lot of clicking and really fast. So I don't blame you if you got lost in all that. What other questions do you have?
I will bring up one last point. I was sitting here thinking about score sins, and I will say that for juniors and seniors that are eligible, there are ACT fee waivers for the national tests. And one of the additional benefits to paying for the national test is that there's also unlimited score sins as well. So again, if a student is eligible for an ACT fee waiver, it's open to juniors and seniors only. They can get 4 fee waivers. So in addition to the test registration and also free online test prep, they also get unlimited score sins as well.
With that, I'm going to go ahead and close. You all have my email address. You got the reminder email earlier today. If you were signed up by whatever time I sent that, it was around 8, 9 o'clock. If you signed up after that, you will get, I will look and see if I have all the email addresses. You'll get the email from me with the PowerPoint attached. If not, just contact the district. I work at the Bransford office, so you're welcome to call Bransford. I'm going to say something very odd. I actually do not have a phone. I don't have an office phone. So email is usually the best way to get in touch with me. So if you have questions that come to mind, please don't hesitate to reach out. And if I don't know the answer, I will email Nivea. I'm used to doing that. She gets emails from me all of the time. But we will get you the information that you need.
Excuse me.
Yes,
I'm Kathleen Combs. I have a quick question before you go. What
absolutely.
score should they be aiming for? What's a good score that they should be aiming for? General score.
Well, if they're wanting the Hope Scholarship, then that score would be a 21. Other than that, then that depends on the student's goals. Like, what school do I want to go to? Do they use it for admission or not? Do I want to get into the engineering program? Or what's the math score to get into the engineering program? So those other are good things to keep in mind as the child comes up with his or her own scores. But, we can always start with a 21 because of Hope.
Yeah, he has a 26 right now. He's a junior. So I was wondering, is that a good score?
Yes.
Yeah, so he's guaranteed himself the Hope Scholarship at minimum if he goes to an in-state school. But again, kind of like Nivea said, what is it that his aspirations are? So if he's looking at a 4-year college in a particular program, some programs have specific admission criteria. So if your child's looking in an engineering program or something in the medical field or any of those STEM careers, might want to reach out to the colleges and institutions of interest and see if they have specific criteria. And if so, what is that and how close is he or she, and have they met or exceeded, or do they still need to work towards it? So yeah, 26 is a great place to start. Is it what is needed? Again, what Nivea said, it depends upon the goals and the aspirations and what the college requires, if that's a plan in their future.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Fabulous question. Anybody else? If not, you are welcome to go. You don't have to just hang out just because I'm sitting here saying any other questions. But you are welcome to do that too. Okay, that's great. Thank you all very much. You have a great evening. And like I said, my email address is there. Feel free to email me if you think of something later on. Thank you for spending some time with us this afternoon. Thank you, Nivea.
You are very welcome, Mary.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Bye, guys.